Marty's First Date is the third episode that aired on February 2nd, 1994. It's written by Tom Gamble and Max Pross, who would later go on to write for The Simpsons, and directed by Alan Smart, who is a director that, even though if you don't know who he is, you've definitely seen his work before. He's done a lot of animation. He's done a lot of stuff for movies like The Chipmunk Adventure, Oliver and Company, The Little Mermaid. He did the Bugs Bunny short Box Office Bunny, and he's done a lot of TV work too. He did some work on Family Dog, and the Amazing Stories episode that led to the Family Dog series, Bobby's World, Rugrats, Rocko's Modern Life, The Ren and Stimpy Show, Duckman. Mostly he's known for his work with SpongeBob SquarePants and the SpongeBob universe. In fact, he's done a ton of work on there. But he directed this episode that we're going to be talking about here. In this episode, Marty invites his father Jay to career day at his school, and then Marty falls for a Cuban girl named Carmen, played by Tress MacNeille, who was later revealed to be the granddaughter of Fidel Castro. And I don't need to tell you who Fidel Castro is.
How do you like America?
My grandfather says your country will one day choke on the vomit of your capitalist excess.
I once choked on a scented candle, and I got my nose caught in a mousetrap. It was the worst birthday I ever had.
One of the complaints from the first episode that I remember from a lot of people was the fact that they didn't really set up the rest of the cast as well as they did with Jay. I mean, they were just kind of thrown in there like they had already been established characters, but I don't think that was a bad thing in particular, and that's what I really like about this episode, because it actually can work out better because we get to learn more about Jay's son Marty. Like, we learn that he goes to this school at the United Nations where he's with all these different kids from other nations, and when you see what the show does with this later on, like with characters like the Eastern Island kid, who's literally an Eastern Island head later on, like it's giving it a more dignified approach in this particular episode compared to what they do later on.
In Mexico, your behavior frightens us, so the station runs a disclaimer that you have escaped from a mental hospital. In my country, you bear a strange resemblance to Bumbar, the god of flatulence.
Yes, it's a great job.
And of course, Marty is voiced by the late Christine Cavanaugh, who you may remember as Chucky from Rugrats and Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. And I thought they did a pretty good job of developing Marty's character more and giving him kind of a really good storyline to work with here. And he does carry a lot of the episode's load. I mean, he has to really take full focus in this particular episode. And that's what I really like about what the first season did with a lot of the characters on the show. Like, most of the main characters get an episode of their own. There's episodes revolving around, Margot. There's episodes revolving around Jay's mother. There's episodes revolving around Duke. And in between, you still have all these episodes revolving around Jay and all these other people. But I like that they even it out to every single to most of the characters in the show. And once again, the humor is absolutely nonstop, brilliant, and hilarious. They do a good job of creating these various hilarious jokes and parodies all throughout the episode. And for about 75% of the episode, I was laughing pretty hard with everything that was going on. Like, the movie parodies were great. Like, the parodies that they didn't show, but they didn't actually show in movie parody form, but they have as posters. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to see what a Family Feud movie would be like, especially if it's with the Sheen family and the Bridges family, because of course Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen, Jeff Bridges, Bro Bridges, those two families, and then you have MASH, the movie, not the movie based off of the movie, but the movie based off of the TV show, and then the movie that Jay takes his son and his date to, the Red Balloon. Like, I love the trolling that poster does, because the poster doesn't tell you. It just tells you it's called The Red Balloon. You think you're going to go see that classic foreign film, The Red Balloon. And then the movie begins, it's just like The Red Balloon. And then it's just like The Red Balloon 2, Revenge of the Balloon. And you've got the Hans Gruber look-alike in there. And then Steven Seagal is in there for no reason. It's all of a sudden an action movie. All of a sudden, it's just kind of like, it's really funny stuff. And there's a lot of great humor all throughout the episode. They take some pretty good jabs at, like, Fame. Woody Allen gets a couple of jabs here and there. The New York Mets, of course, because, well, the New York Mets will always be a joke, honestly, when you really think about it. But, they take some pretty good jabs. And they do, and I love the way that these jokes are really set up. Like, you have this, like, for example, there's this one segment where, the date didn't go well, and Marty's trying to make amends with Carmen, so she's about to go back to Cuba, so he has to go to the airport, and you have this bubble of Jay telling him something that he'd said to him earlier, don't give up, and then all of a sudden, the balloon pops, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody all of a sudden sees this balloon coming out of nowhere, and the balloon is, like, screaming, ah, and, like, it just falls to the ground, and it becomes a little bit of a running gag in the episode, and it's just really, really funny what they do with that. like, there's one joke in particular that I thought was pretty amusing, the way they built it up, because it's like he has to get on the plane, so he takes this cello out of its case and puts himself inside there. This homeless guy gets the cello. He's playing it pretty well, and then he makes and people are giving him money, and then he makes a mistake on one note, and like everybody just takes the money away, and then it cuts back to the plane, and then they're like, "What have you done with the cello?" And then they cut back. The homeless guy apparently has already gotten a gig at Carnegie Hall, and it's already sold out. Like, you don't really question it because like the last time we saw him, the money was being taken away from him. So, in the time it took for that one mistake, he went from having no money to all of a sudden being on Carnegie Hall, selling out a sold out crowd. I mean, like, jokes like that are really, really funny, and I love the way they handle them throughout this episode. And they also do a good job of making fun of Castro and Cuba, but not making him just a caricature. There are these little glimpses of them developing a character and a culture for the brief bit in the third act of the story that he's in. Like, there's a great flashback to the 50s where he's in Washington, and he's like, let's pet. It's the 50s, and the girl's just like, he's with a girl in the car, and he's just like, and she's just like, you've got to do something about that beard. And she's like, never. This beard is part of my heritage. And then you see a caricature of John F. Kennedy coming out just like, hey, the woman said to leave her alone. He's just like, you'll pay for this one day. And he just drives away. And then Richard Nixon comes in at the end. It's just like, I'll give you a lift. And the girl's just like, no. It's like, it's my 5 o'clock shadow, isn't it? It's like, yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, keep telling yourself that, Nixon. But I do like that there was a little bit of a chemistry between Marty and Carmen. I think Kavanaugh and McNeil do a pretty good job of having a little bit of the chemistry that they could have in this episode. And it does end on a nice little note here. Not really giving Marty a long-term relationship, but giving him at least somewhat of some closure and maybe an opening later on down the road. I actually like how they handled that pretty well. And it's another all-around winning episode for the show. It's a lot of good laughs, really good writing, storytelling-wise, great voice work. Another really great episode. What more can I say, man? It's a really great episode, worth checking out.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
I'm stuck in the chair.